first race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup season. We're in Innsbruck in Austria in the beautiful Tyrol mountain region. And just above the double Olympic city is the small village of Eagles. That's where the sliding centre is for our four-man bobsleigh competition today. Martin Haven and John Morgan ready to call the action for the final 20 sleds going through in our second heat from our field of 26. And John, well, some good names to conjure with in the leaderboard. Brad Hall of Great Britain lying in third place after an impressive first heat. He's been a medalist on this track in two-man before, but not in four-man.
Martin, and he was bronze medal in yesterday's two-man competition, so he's starting to peak at the right time in his career. Johannes Lochner, well, he's been the bridesmaid in most of these four-man competitions, but still consistent. Didn't have the great start, but drove to a silver medal position, and at least he's a little closer to Team Friedrich. Yesterday, this guy had a 3,400 lead at the end of the first heat in two-man. Made a little mistake up top here in the four-man, and he's actually looking like a normal human being, Martin. He's only has an 800th lead.
It's only when he's driving a bobsleigh that he looks completely not a normal human being. The rest of the time, he is just a lovely guy. Johannes Lochner, 800s back. Brad Hall, 1200s back, but a threat for the medals from Benny Meyer, the Austrian. Bronze medalist here in the last race, 1600s back. Hunter Church, 2400s back. Lots, again, of very tight groups. Look at the gaps between Dvorak, Bascu, Tentea, Spring, Hafer, Trikel, Variola. Too close to call. A lot of these are probably going to end up within a hundredth or two of each other. Simon Friedli made the cut. Lam Indin, Roman Heinrich, Xiao Yijun, Patrick Baumgartner, Sun Kai-chi, and Ryo Shinohara did not. So there is Francesco Friedrich's crew and Marco, the technician who looks after all the sleds. Sam Jaguar on the right-hand side. Cody Sorensen, we were pointed out by Rita Varche, has not been in a bobsleigh since 2014. The name was so familiar, I didn't even look to see whether he had competed last year. Never mind since the Vancouver Games, since the Sochi Games. That's a long time away to come back to a sport, John.
You call that a sabbatical?
6 years? No, that's more than the sabbatical. That's more than the holiday. That's a long while. 7 years, in fact. That's a heck of a long while. So here is our start order. Simon Friedli goes off first. Francesco Friedrich will be last out of the dressing room to defend his lead. Ready to go then. Second and deciding heat, race one of the BMW IBSF four-man bobsleigh World Cup in Innsbruck in Austria. Switzerland's Simon Friedli, 20th after the first heat, is the first man to go down for the second run. Martin Haven and John Morgan calling the action here.
Best start in the first run, Martin, a 5:12, maybe a 5:11, 5:10. There's the 5:11. Now look at the velocity. Keep your eye on that velocity. You want to have the best velocity, not the best start. And, you know, not like him to be back in 20th, Martin, but as I look at the times from the previous race that they had in China, he was way back also. So, not as good in the four-man as he is the two-man, Martin.
And I think that's the deal with both him and Mikkel Vogt. They learned on the two-man. It's easier. It requires less manpower to actually train with it. And then converting to the four-man, that's another whole learning process. It's almost like starting again. So Friedli will hang on in the top 20. The second heat, they will decide whether he moves up or stays put. 51.25, 100th different from his first heat, 100th quicker. Not sure that's going to be a massive gain.
No, he's still an inexperienced athlete. In this quad, he turned into a driver, meaning he was a former brakeman, and, The Swiss used to dominate four-man bobsled, two-man bobsled. These guys are trying to bring the Swiss program back, and the secret is to get those brakemen in the front seat. The Swiss have done that 4 years ago, and it's the Olympic year, and it's time to show us what you got.
Well, showing us what they've got, the Italian crew of Mattia Variola. They made the cut. Teammates Patrick Baumgartner and his crew did not. So with Eric Fantazzini, Alex Vergina and Lorenzo Bellotti, this crew coming on strong. And again, 4 years ago, Mattia Variola was racing as a brakeman for Simone Batatso, who's helping coach and is down at the bottom of the track. So another backseat, front seat convert.
These guys have
we can safely say this guy is now, Italy 1, isn't he? He starts better and he drives better.
Let's see, yeah, 1-to-1. What I like about this is these first 9 sleds we're going to see, this Italian athlete here had the best start. And that tells me that they're starting to mold the team as they look down the road here, Mark, into the 2026 Milan Cortina Olympic Games. Stake there, he did the same thing in the first heat in the same exact spot. But, you know, another guy that's gone from the back seat to the front seat.
Was 1,200 up,
there.
The gap is remaining pretty static. Nice high sweeping line there. And that gives him a good approach into the labyrinth.
Pretty good, Martin, for this. How many four-man starts has he got in his career? 51-24?
This is his second.
Yeah, second four-man start. What I like best about his second four-man start is he's got a top 10 start.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's very encouraging for the Italian program.
And there is Simone Batatso, his former driver. Been rescuing a lot of sleds from up the end there.
Look at this mistake, right? Little tap at the front bunk near that expansion joint. That caused him a little bit of concern as he entered the Kreisel here. Look at the helmets all together. Can we see any helmets back here behind him? Keep your eyes on helmets and shoulders in the shot. If you can see helmets and shoulders, there's bad setup in the sled for the athletes to sit. That's not too bad. It's not an A.
Well, John, you always say the difference between two-man and four is like driving a sports car compared to a sports utility. And that's the extra weight, the extra mass that moves it around from the back. And that's what they're all struggling with today. This is Markus Treichel of Austria, Markus Krug, Sebastian Mitterer, and Robert Exlager, his crew. 5:15, little slower than their first start.
Second best velocity, so well-schooled, well-trained. Marcus got 1 Olympic Games under his belt. His parents sit on the Austrian bobsled scouting board. Do a lot of work with the track. Spectacular place to come. The city of Innsbruck right below us.
1200s in the hole, but he's coming back.
Good line, good line. He could find that Austrian shortcut down here. He's got one of those tickets to that. 11, he's gonna run out of track. Now the question is, he's gonna probably fall 2 places.
He does.
Oh,
yeah.
My, look how close that is. 3 sleds. Gerhard Reiner, longtime coach. Well, Gerhard's a little disappointed in that. So will Marcus. He's gonna fall to the back of the pack. 600 separating the first 3 sleds.
Yeah, the gaps are so tiny here, so tiny.
Well, especially in four-man.
Yeah. And they're harder to control. They're more of a blunt object than the 2-seat sled. It is just a little harder to be consistent.
Yeah, very good cohesion by the team. I like the number 2 guy, the way he brought his hands up to put down his mask. The brakeman looking to make sure the push bars come in. Marcus with his eyes barely over the cowling, and he's not very happy.
No, not hugely impressed with that. Next up for Korea, Yoon Jong-won, Kim Dong-young, Kim Jin-soo, and Jung Hyun-wo on the back of the sled. Jung Wo-seo, his regular brakeman, was in the 2-man sled yesterday, so getting a bit of rest and recovery today.
The next 5 sleds these 3 sleds are tied. The 2 that just went down, and this one.
Yep.
The next 5 sleds, 6 sleds are separated by like 300. So it's like taking a deck of cards and shaking it up. 5:15. Third best velocity, like their start. The Olympic silver medalists, we told the story in the first run, Martin. What an Olympic silver medal that was. You were there, I was there. I rate that right up there as one of my best Olympic moments, seeing this historic Asian bobsled medal, the first ever. Now with China entering the picture, bobsledding is becoming very much more a global sport.
Now, he has the best speed so far. He is in the hole, 600s back, but this should be enough to bring him back into green numbers.
Ooh, it's 100. This is another, could be a tie.
Quicker than Variola by 600s.
There's the Olympic experience. He doesn't have the start times that he had when he won that silver medal in Korea in 2018, but needless to say, a very experienced driver and a legend in our sport.
Yep. And you wonder whether he will go again for another 4 years. I think perhaps his swan song might well be in Beijing. 2 Asian Games. It's not a bad way to end, is it?
No. The lines, look at the hardly any spray off the runners there. Good. The team, look at the way they're all bent in, the 3 sled, 3 heads buried behind the driver like they're supposed to be.
There is one. And of course, the worry for him is where are the new drivers coming from? He wants to be around to help bring them through.
Well, in skeleton, they got the top 3 starts in the competition. All 3 athletes, top 3 out of 5 starts. That tells you they've got a pretty good recruiting program in skeleton. Of course, they won the gold medal in skeleton, too. 4 years ago.
So next up, Christoph Hafer with Matthias Sommer, Lukas Fritz and Tobias Schneider. Young and relatively inexperienced crew, but it was the driver who very nearly didn't make it into the cab at the first push.
Yeah, 5:20 start there, 5:11. Very, very cautious run by the driver, Hafer there.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't run as far as he could. And, you know, he drove himself into, with that mishap at the start, he still drove himself into the second run. He should do that here too, but Martin, for him to be that far back on the start, you don't have a long career in Germany if you're back at 15, 18th place.
Well, you don't have a long career if you don't make it into the sled at all. I think he was just being very careful there. Race 100, nearly
I don't think he's going to do it.
I'm not sure he is. Yeah, behind Variola. Oh, just ahead of Variola by 100, so sort of spares his blushes a little. He loses a place to an Olympic medalist and not to a rookie in only his 2nd race, but it was close.
Yeah, but for him to have the worst start of the 5 sleds that just came down, the Germans will address that. By next week, if he's in this race, I bet you he doesn't finish in this place.
Yeah.
They're going to do a lot of dry land training for the start. This wasn't perfect either. That back left runner, that's the norm. Actually, that was a good line into the last part of the labyrinth. Here's the front part of the picture. Look at the heads. Pretty good alignment there for aerodynamics.
Yep. Well, they're a well-drilled crew, but it has not been their day for sure. Yun Jong-won the leader, 5 down, 15 to go. Chris Spring for Canada, 15th after the first heat, 300s ahead of our current leader. Cody Sorensen, first race for him since 2014. Sam Shiger, first race for him in over a season. Mike Evelyn, first race for him since yesterday's 2-man. And Chris Spring, by the way, has got an ex-Francesco Friedrich Valner sled. So this is Francie's sled from last year that has been sold to BCS.
Well, let's see what he can do with it. You know, he had a slower start than he had in the first run. He had a 5:09 in the first run, 13 there. So that 400 is an inconsistent mistake.
Second best speed, 700s up. It's going to be close with one, John. Very close.
He's got it, 700. He's got it by...
Oh. Bit of a skid, how close? 700s. Well, he held that from about corner 6 down, absolutely static. Come on, Graham Richardson. There you go. Got to the sled in the end.
Got to say, though,
under
that
Ilko's camera. He's so experienced.
400 under. 400's difference at the start. Every 100th is 100th at the top, 3 at the bottom. So that 400's difference in the start would have given him 12 more hundreds, Martin.
Yeah.
That's what he needed to move up.
400 slower at the start, 400's quicker down the run. But, John, that was close. That was very close. Look at this.
Look at the aerodynamics. Team's very good. Team is well buried. Look at the airborne there into the takedown of the finish curve.
Nearly rolled it into the finish corner. That's twice in the labyrinth. He nearly rolled it over. Woo. All right.
Cody Sorensen, nice to see you back.
Yeah.
From the past.
Next up, Mihai Tentea of Romania with Raul Dobry at 2, Ciprin Darossi at 3, and Christian Radu in between them on the back handles. 14th best start at 5:11.
They're separated by 400s. He's 200 slower at the start.
Matches Spring, though, so he still has a 400th advantage.
Still. Good lines in the first run, Martin.
Yep.
I think we saw him at the Codex World Championships in 2017. He was, he was like 18 then. So what's he, 22, 23
Still
now?
Looks 18.
Yeah. Oh.
Relatively inexperienced, though, and that's starting to show. Was 400s up. He's 100 back.
500s now. He could drop 2 spots. Watch out.
Might be behind Yun Jong-won as well, and he is.
Yeah.
He does drop 2 spots. So he is in 3rd place with 13 to go. He'll be no worse than 16, but he was on target to beat his January result of 14th place.
Not too many times that a Romanian sled beats a German sled in a race. He just beat Hofer by 100th of a second.
Yep. Take that every day.
Look at the snow that accumulates in the sled just up the finish straight away. You need a shovel to get that out of there.
Yeah.
He's really high. For a small guy, though, he sits up way too high. I would suggest he gets down lower in this. But the team behind him is pretty well aerodynamically positioned. Look at the articulation on the sled. That's the split and the cowling. It splits like that at that high speed. There's a lot of air that runs in there. You can see it a little bit in the pressure there.
Yeah. You see the brakeman landing in his seat there as he comes into shot as well. There is Mihai. Next up, Cody Basque for the USA. Blaine McConnell at 2, Carlo Valdez at 3, James Reed at 4. So 700's their advantage over our current leader, Chris Spring of Canada.
5:09, first run. Everybody else, a couple hundred slower, so at least a 5:11. Good load, 5:10. He'll take that. Best speed, best velocity. Again, the United States, in Lake Placid, New York State, at the Mount Van Hovenberg complex, has built a brand new indoor start facility. Cody Basque yesterday finished 5th in the 2-man with very good starts. And Hunter Church's team's got a top 5 start. Cody here a top 9 start. So that's going to improve the U.S. chances as they go down this Olympic trail.
It's such a great facility to have for any nation, for any track, to have an ice house. Just makes a huge difference to what you feel when you first get back on ice.
Watch out, this is right to the 100.
That's him or Chris Spring. Yeah. No, 500's back. So Chris Spring moves up again. Springer spent a bit of time moving up the order in the leaders box, as you said, John, because of the low start draw, because he didn't do World Cup races 2 years ago. 2 seasons ago, he was racing in North America's Cup, having just decided to unretire. So that's why his ranking was so low.
Well, Cody started 23rd, or Chris Springs, started 22.
Yeah.
That's up top. That was a mistake before Chrysler. You saw Cody checking the runners. That was worth some hundreds. Watch the rudder tips here. Watch the spray. Ooh, you can see him really turning hard to get off the 9. Now he comes off straight. He's still checking the runners.
Yeah.
Boy, that hard steer up top before the Kreisel, though. Here in the exit of 10, he flops it. Skid on the back, and he's still checking those runners.
Well, Cody's ranking again from 2 years ago. He wasn't doing World Cup races then either, so that's why his ranking is so low. Dominik Dvorak with Jan Sindelar, Jakub Nošek, and new boy Dominik Zaleski, who was the two-man brakeman yesterday, on the back.
Good start, 5:08 the first run, but let's see what they do here, 5:10. That start track's a couple hundred slower to everybody, but they have the fourth best split.
Aiming to qualify for their second games. They were just so thrilled to go to Pyeongchang for the first time 4 years ago.
See the number 2 head is up too high. Should be lower than that. See too much of that white helmet behind the driver. There goes taps. 1300 is a lot of time. And that's a great exit.
Caps coming down though, was 17 down to 13, down to a tenth of a second. Should be enough, but Spring was flying at the bottom. Close, but he hangs on. And it's goodbye to Chris Spring and the crew.
Dominik Dvorak, not so good of a performance on the track in China a few weeks ago, 13th spot.
Still struggling to find his mojo, clearly. He knows he should be firmly in the top 10.
Wow, look at this. Whoa, look at the energy there. Boy, remember, this track was built for the 1976 Olympics. The athletes in the sleds. Wow, that's some beautiful pictures. It shows you the challenge.
I was going to say, I want to know what it feels like being in the back seat when you go airborne like that. Actually, I really don't want to know. I withdraw that immediately. Next up, Canada's Justin Cripps with Ryan Summer, Cam Stones, Ben Coakwell. Here is a man who should be a long way further up the order. He was the bronze medalist here in January's race. What on earth is he doing down in 11th?
Best start time, but the third best velocity. And, you know, Cripps did well over in the Yanqing track in China, finished 4th in this event, 4-man in the Olympic test. And let me tell you, the China track, Martin, 9 seconds longer, 59-second times. We got 50-second times here. So,
sled is still moving around a lot under him. He's not got the control of this sled that he would like, I don't think. It's not as ugly as the first run. He's definitely adjusted.
Oh, he went big airborne. Martin, this is a much better run, though. 50.97. Look at. Yeah, he's
no,
only
it's 200 slower. It looks less untidy. But quite a lot of the sleds have gone slower. Who's improved on their first heat? Chris Spring by 400s.
Let's see how much
won by
time.
5. Yeah, almost nobody has improved on their first heat.
Justin, take a look at the monitor. Let's watch how much airtime you get here in this crossover. Watch the sled here. Look at that. Wow. That is.
See, that's almost where the meat turns the meat wagon over, isn't it?
Over. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is. Wow. A 1976 built track.
Yeah. Well, think what cars were like in those days. Never mind what anything else was like. It ain't the same world. Justin Cripps leads from Dominik Dvorak and Chris Spring. Canada, Czech Republic, Canada. 10 down, 10 to go. Final 10 sleds of the first 4-man race of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh season. And in 10th place here in Innsbruck, Austria, Michael Vogt. The Swiss with Silvieri, Silvio Weber and Sandro Michel. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching the action.
It's 10th in the test event in China a few weeks ago in the Yanqing track. And the Swiss, you look at the helmets, they're buried perfectly behind the driver. The Swiss have always paid attention to detail in the sport of bobsledding.
Only did 2 of the 4-man races last season, plus the World Championships. Best result was a 7th place in Samaritz, a track, of course, that he knows well.
He's on track here to lose 1 spot. The Cripps should have been back in 10th place anyways. Cripps could move up 2 or 3 spots.
And Vogt, like Cripps, was really struggling to control the sled in the first heat, and he still is. So he drops to second.
He did a little bit more steering there. Cripps didn't do any steering. That's why the sled was airborne. But, you know, you got to be brave.
Yeah.
It's not the athlete that steers the most that wins. It's the athlete that steers the least.
Well, with only 3 4-man races under his belt last year, he clearly did not have Chris Spring's confidence that it was going to be okay. And again here, little late, has to haul it off a bit.
Not too bad, though.
Puts him in a skid.
Yeah, that's not too bad, though. We've seen worse when you see those runners pointed in the wrong direction coming off the exit. That was pretty good there.
Yeah. Well, Cripps had to really Robin Hood it off the turn there in the first heat, didn't he? Hauled it off, because otherwise that would have been a crash.
Cripps had mistakes up top, too.
Yeah. 9th place, Russia's Rostislav Gajtukovic. 0.04 of a second his advantage over current leader Justin Cripps of Canada. Veteran crew behind him in Mikhail Mordasov and Ilya Malik, with Pavel Travkin, the new guy, on the back handles.
5:05. 6th best start in the first run, 9th best downtime. Should do better than that. 5:06 to the velocity. Only the 5th best velocity order the top start. So he's got 1 out of 2. 400 is nothing. He's only got 4. With that better start, he should have been up 8 or 10 hundredths, Martin. So it's some kind of a mistake, curve 1 to 2. Took away his velocity and his time. 0-100. Cripps is going to get him. He might fall a couple spots.
Well, 1300s back to Mikhail Vogt in second.
Oh, he's coming though.
Back.
Right to the 100.
Could be a tie.
Remember, Cripps had the problem.
No!
100.
Final corner, that lurch in the finish turn as he tried to bring it down to the line. That was the 100th that went away.
How many times have I said rough trips sometimes are the fastest? Look at the way they were dead heat in that last section of the track. Cripps almost rolled it, was airborne into the second to last curve. The Russians were perfect, and they lose by 100. So sometimes loose is fast.
Better load for Gajtukovic. He got a bit hooked up on his seat in the first heat.
Yeah, but they didn't have good velocity, Martin. That wasn't a good, you know, they had a great start, but not a good velocity.
Well, there is Rostislav Gajtukovic beating himself up for not beating an Olympic medalist. Yeah. Well, the real worry, of course, is that Gajtukovic was behind this man, Maxim Anjanov. His only 4-man race last year was the World Championships. He's not started a 4-man World Cup race for over 12 months.
He had a big advantage, Martin. He was the first guy out, first guy down on the track. He had the best ice to work with. 5:07, could get 5:07 at least.
5:09 is the start for Maxim Anjanov.
8th best velocity. He's gonna have all he can do now to chase down Cripps here at the bottom.
Italy's Mattia Variola still has the best speed through that speed trap.
Best speed here too from Andriana. Ooh, mistake there though. 1000s back. It's gonna be tough to overcome that.
And Cripps had better speed down here, John, as well. He's not gonna get to him, is he?
No, he's gonna fall 2 places, maybe 3 places.
3. Yeah, he's behind Mikhail Vogt. He is behind Mikhail Vogt.
Martin,
so Cripps and crew move up.
Remember what I said, he was the first man, he drew #1 in that lottery, and he took advantage of it, but he got caught up to him here in the second run.
A full third of a second slower, John, 3,300 slower.
That tells you how much of an advantage it is in this track to go first.
Well, plus the mistakes creep in as well.
That tap right there caused quite a skid.
Yeah.
Into 8, look at that. There's a no-no.
That's the tail wagging the dog.
He's got his head underneath the cowling looking for 100th, and
yeah,
you know.
And then pops up praying he feels the brakes digging in. Now then, Ivo de Bruin, big race for him for 20-year-old Jelen Frančić, younger brother of Janko, and Stefan Hausenfeld. Stefan the brakeman has had 2 bobsleigh races in his life in the Europa Cup back in 2019. So, boy, they have really been calling in some favours for this crew. 5:15. They need a top 8, John.
Top 8 finish, and they qualify for the Olympic team.
Yep.
I don't know about that. He's 1,400 back, and right now, he's going to have the motor, and he did in the first run. He was very surprised.
Yes, he did. They had very good speed at the bottom, but the gap's out to 1,900 back.
Yeah, he just hit twice before Kreisel.
Come on, Ivo, steady the ship. And a clip on the wall as well. It's not happening today.
His wife won a bronze medal this morning in the 2-woman competition. I don't think this is going to be it for the Dutch.
He drops to 5th with 6 sleds to go. And that is not happening today.
That's painful. But the mistakes up top, he didn't do that in the first run.
No, and that is the pressure, isn't it, of knowing that you have that chance in your hands and being able to control the anxiety, the nerves, and the need to overdrive it.
Yeah, the start
wasn't the most cohesive getaway, I don't think, but the mistakes just creeping in. And
well, Martin, this first run, he had a 5:15, second run 5:15, but the mistakes up top here wasn't perfect. Look at these, trying to check the runners, get control, stay off the wall. Wasn't his best run, that's for sure.
No. So, just tight. Wasn't the greatest day in the office yesterday for Oskars Kibermanis of Latvia. Hasn't been today either in 4-man. Dove Springs, Mats Miknes and Chris Linderblad's behind him. 8th best at the start. 6th at the bottom of the track, but 3 tenths away from the leader.
04, so they improved at the start by 200ths. The best velocity, so the first 2 challenges he's overcome, the best start, the best velocity. Martin, he just hasn't been performing yesterday or in the first heat today.
He's not often done well on this track. He's only got 1 medal in his career here in Innsbruck, a silver medal 3 years ago. So it doesn't really play to his strengths. Maybe he's just not feeling the love for Innsbruck.
Well, Martin, yesterday in the 2-man, you had said he'd won 5 medals on this track in 5 previous races. Yesterday, he didn't finish in the top 10.
No.
So maybe he's just sleeping until the Olympics. 800, it should be enough. Going to be close, though.
Is he going to take the lead? He does. Finds another couple of hundreds.
Yeah, but he's 1,400 slower than his first one. Sanders Bruce is the 2-decade coach for the... approaching 2 decades as the coach. I think 2002-03 he took over.
So Oskars Kibermanis holds at least a top 6 finish ahead of Justin Krips and Rostislav Gajčukovic. It was a little tidier run than his first.
Boy, that was pretty clean coming out of that exit of 9. He's still a little bit of touch with the runners. Great aerodynamic profile, as you would expect from a program from Latvia.
Five sleds to go, first of whom Hunter Church from the USA.
Great start in the first run.
Yeah, and these guys need another big start. Josh Williamson, Hakeem Abdul-Sabur, and Charles Volker on the back of the sled.
So the Latvians just improved their start by 200s. The United States 504s. Oh, we have a mistake. 510, 600 slower. Watch the velocity if we get it. No,
at least they all got in, and that was good news.
Just going to talk about how good they've been with the new push house they have in Lake Placid. It didn't help them there. Push bar's still out there on the left side. They're right.
Well, the new brakeman, Charles Volker, has only ever done 3 races in his life in North America's Cup. February last year, he raced in the 2-man and twice in a 4-man in Lake Placid.
You don't think that push bar's much. Hundredths of seconds, that's a drag.
Yeah. It's not flapping around, so it's clearly got jammed going in. Hunter Church drops back.
12th best time of the run. Slips, replaces.
Whoa. Whoa. And again, going straight through the station and up onto the matting. So 4th place with 4 to go. It'll be a top 8 finish here for Hunter Church.
Well, he won a medal on this track a few years ago.
Yeah, bronze 2 seasons ago in the 4-man.
Oh, there's the slip.
Yeah.
Look at the athleticism just to do what he's doing, though. You know, with the strength, you have to do that.
And not to beat his driver up as well, yeah.
And look at his teammates.
Williamson.
You know, they're adjusting. They can't get in yet.
Yeah.
Hunter probably doesn't know what's going on behind him, but that push bar didn't come in. See that push bar?
Yeah.
That's worth some time.
The drivers always say you feel something is happening, but of course you're not turning around to see exactly what. 4 sleds to go here in Innsbruck in Austria. Here is Benny Meyer, silver medalist here in January, silver medalist in the World Championships. And brand new livery on the sleds. Chocolate bars that translate as Omar Hartmann's cold dogs.
503, 505. Velocity, 5th best velocity. So he didn't hit high marks for the start or the velocity. I don't think he had that good of a first run, Martin. And he's right there in the medal hunt.
Yep, 400s out of the medals. 3 sleds remaining.
Oh, mistake
from Benny. Look at the speed.
Best speed, way off.
What? Okay, 900 is the gap. Should be down to 2 or 3 at the next clock, unless he's got something very good going on.
Very low at 10, and he
500.
Down to 5 for the 100th of a second here.
Should stay ahead of Keeper Manis. He's got better speed than the Latvian. He does. Okay,
I don't think that's enough for a medal, though.
Well, is it? We just saw how the pressure got to Ivo de Bruin.
Couple mistakes on his home track.
What you found in the bottom of the sled, Benny? Bit of leftover chocolate bar?
Right here. Look at this tap on the right side of the screen into that expansion joint. We've seen a number of sleds do that, but that sets you up wrong in the Kreisel, that little tap there, because that's the entry to the Kreisel.
Hi, everybody.
Shaw Hendricks is back home watching Daddy on the TV. 3 sleds to go. Now we decide the medals. Benny Meyer leads. Brad Hall for Great Britain, 3rd. 1200s off the lead. 400s ahead of Benny Meyer. Big chance here. Big T, Lawrence Taylor at 2. Para Nick Gleason at 3. Greg Cackett on the back, who was on the 2-man sled that took a medal yesterday.
Well, Martin, probably the biggest heat of his 4-man career. 5:01, only 100th off, best velocity. Martin, he gets to the bottom here. I'm going to tell you, he's the most impressive, improved athlete in the field. I mean, that crash he had up in Whistler about 4 years ago now really set him back. I thought he'd move up the leaderboard quicker than he has, but what I've seen out of this athlete who, on the Yanqing track, bronze medal in the 2-man. So he's got a huge lead here, Martin, and this is, wow. This is an impressive young athlete coming up the leaderboard. Wow,
It could
huge
be
lead,
a
Martin.
very big run for Brad Hall. One
Wow.
bronze medal in his career. He now has at least a second bronze medal in his four-man career.
Is that his first ever medal in four-man?
Yeah, no, second. 2017 Park City, he was a bronze medalist. He took the bronze medal yesterday in the two-man. He will medal again in the four-man. This is the first day in World Cup where he has been on the podium twice in a race weekend. And that was a let it fly labyrinth. Look at that.
Boy, yeah, that didn't steer much on the exit. And pretty brave to do that. Great aerodynamics there. Pretty good for the British. Upcoming rising star in bobsledding right there.
Get in. 2 to go. Brad Hall leads, and former winners on this track in two-man and four-man are coming up. Johannes Lochner won the European Championships here in 2017-18 from Krips and Friedrich. Francesco has been unbeaten in the last 3 years in four-man and only once in two-man. Who's going to win it? Has Lochner got what it takes? 5:01 start, he needed that.
He improved his start time by 100, but he had the second best velocity. He's only got 400s to play with, so he should be 500 or 600s, only 200s there. He drove well on the bottom in the first run.
There are 4 British guys watching this on the monitor in the leaders box, holding their breath. My legs are jiggling up and down like nobody's business. 8th best speed. Where's his speed gone from the first heat?
Well,
this is going to be close. A mistake there as well. He's in the red.
I don't know. This is going to be
too close to call. Who's it going to be? Brad Hall or Johannes Lochner?
We love them ties.
Oh, Brad Hall and Johannes Lochner. First silver medal of his career for Brad Hall.
As I've said before on a number of occasions, I love ties with bobsledding.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
The Germans, okay, this is another day at the office for them. The British, when was the last time the British medaled in four-man bobsled, Martin? You got it right in front of you.
Don't ask me, ask John Jackson.
Come on.
Ask Lee Johnson. Lee, tell me.
Probably the Olympic run for John Jackson in 2014. Boy, this was just enough for Hansi to get into the finish line. Look at the aerodynamic profile and those.
Brad had a bronze in 2017 in the four-man, but other than him, Hansi. Over the nose and mouth is the approved man and not over the eye like a pirate, Hansi. Well, he is the joint leader with Brad Hall. So, who wins the race and by how much? Friedrich had a bit of a below par first run, John. Only 1200s in front, only 800s ahead of Lochner. I say he is going to improve on that.
No, 200 slower at the start, but they have the best velocity. And this isn't the victory lap he had yesterday in the two-man when he had a 3,400s lead after the first heat.
But how much did he win by? How much did he win by? He lost almost all that time now. He's gone from 13 to 1400s up. He's not giving away time, but this is a very much tighter race and a big skid.
I think he was just teasing the field in the first run, Martin.
I don't think
now
so.
He's pulling away, Martin.
Yeah.
He's going to be way better than 800th in the second run for the fastest time.
Victory for Francesco Friedrich. Yeah, that's a good run. Not as quick as his first, but nobody really was.
1,800 better than anybody in the field in the second run. So he teased him in the first run. He gave him a chance. He baited him a little bit, but you know, how can he keep winning every single heat? I mean,
well, he's quite good at what he does, I guess.
Yeah, but you know,
I know, but there is no secret. It's just doing the same thing time and time and time again. And what goes on behind that smile? That's what it is, isn't it? What happens behind the smile, between the ears? That's
No
what makes the
mistakes,
difference.
no driving mistakes. Start, look at the precision of these very large men behind him. These three guys behind him. Look how huge, look at the precision of them getting in the sled. Yeah, he made a little bit of a skid here in the exit of 9, but he's still 1,800. That means in a 4-heat race at the Olympics, he'd be winning by 7,200. What else can you say about the guy?
Silver medal for Brad Hall and Johannes Lochner. Gold for Francesco Friedrich. The last silver medal for Team GB 4-man, Lake Placid 2013, John Jackson. Thank you for that, Lee Johnson. The fount of all Team GB knowledge. Benny Meyer, Oscar's keeper managed, Justin Cripps round out the top half dozen. And there are the rest of our classified finishers in our second heat. Well, that is it for the first race weekend of the season. No travel days. We stay here in Innsbruck for race 2. And Francesco Friedrich, that is his 16th 4-man win, his 53rd in both disciplines. He continues in an unbeaten form that's stretched back a season and a half, John.
Can you ask him in your interview if he gets bored with winning? I mean, it's unbelievable what he's done in our sport in the last 4 years. He's eclipsed every record. You know, Monty was the greatest of all time, the Pele of our sport. Now this guy's got all the records, and he's dominating like no one has ever dominated.
Well, John, he was off the podium in February 2020 in St. Moritz, so he is human somewhere, sometime, someplace.
One time in 4 years.
Yeah, not today. Well, that's it for the first race weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for your company. On behalf of the TV crew, on behalf of John Morgan, I'm Martin Haven saying we look forward to joining you next Friday as we start again in Innsbruck. Friday is Skeleton Day, and the bobsleigh and monobob continues through the weekend. Until then, have a great time. Bye for now.